Okay. All right, we want to keep it matters education, and I want to now bring in Emmanuel Manyasa, who is from the Uwezo East Africa. Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for joining us here on News Center. First things first, what can you say about the examinations so far? We've not had any incidences reported, contrary to what we've had and seen before in the previous examinations.
Thank you, Betty, for having me. If you allow me, I will wish all the candidates, the primary school and secondary school candidates, best of luck in these exams, and just remind them that these exams are important for them, but they are not life and death, so they shouldn't kill themselves trying to pass these exams. They should just do their best. That is all they should be thinking about. I think, going back to your question, this is the second year that we are doing exams under this kind of circumstances where we have tightened the processes of managing the examinations. And I think that so far so good. We haven't had stories of papers leaking. We haven't had many other issues that usually arise around this time. And I think the ministry is perfecting the processes.
All right, Emmanuel, these examinations have come at a time when we have a very interesting political environment that keeps changing face every other time. How do you think that this has affected, if they have really affected the candidates who are now sitting for the examinations? Remember that, you know, in the places that we've had disruption with protests and demonstrations across the country, some places, you know, some regions in the country. How do you think that this has affected the students?
Actually, in your today's paper, you report 5 candidates in Kawangware and Olympic Primary School did not turn up for exams yesterday. So the effect is real. The politics have affected these exams. Mm-hmm. The extent we cannot really quantify now until later when the results come out, and we'll be able to see the extent of the effect. But definitely the political situation has affected candidates. We have children who have been displaced in some of the informal settlements here in Nairobi. We have children who have gone through a lot of traumatizing experiences in the run-up to these exams, and that definitely affects. Maybe it just calls on us as the adults, as the politicians in the country, to always pay some attention to these kinds of things when we are doing the things we do.
Interesting. And also let's talk about the measures that Fred Matiang'i has put in place to curb cheating. We saw it work last year, and the number of cases actually reduced significantly. And this year, hopefully, we'll have the same thing. Are we looking at a future whereby we'll, you know, cheating will actually be a thing of the past?
I am looking at the future where cheating will be the thing of the past, but I'm also hoping for a future where we'll not have CSs running around to supervise exams, because I think they have better things to do. So can we create a system that will allow examinations to happen without all this almost state of emergency declaration in schools, so that we can have exams not being coming into an environment that makes learners feel like this is a life and death thing.
Also, we've seen quite a number of police officers, you know, contrary to the past, you know, being part of the process. You know, in the schools, you see all these officers also just manning the process there. And it's not even to do with the political environment in the country. It's just, you know, to further, you know, ensure that there's no cheating cases. Do you think that this really has an impact on the students? You know, they spend the whole time in school, there are no officers, and then suddenly this time when everything is so critical, you have all these officers in uniform, you know, walking around the school, you know, manning, you know, the schools and the institutions.
It definitely has an effect on the candidates, especially those who have had other traumatizing experiences with the security agencies in the last few months. Seeing these many policemen in school brings bad memories to them at the wrong time. But I'm also looking at the ongoing curriculum reforms and hoping that we will implement the proposed new curriculum well, so that this examination, which every year is a ritual of massive investment and massive mobilization of education officials and security agencies, will become a thing of the past, that this annual ritual of exams will be something we don't have to keep going through.
Right. Let's also go back to the conversation to do with the elections and examinations. Now, NASA yesterday, the leader came out and said that the protests will still continue in the country. And of course, we're having this prolonged period of examinations for both KCPE and KCSE. Are you concerned as an education expert and somebody who's very instrumental in the sector?
Those protests are not just going to hurt education, they'll hurt many things. I don't want to comment on whether they are necessary or not. That is not within my province to comment on. But I think that as a nation, we need to be looking for ways to avert this kind of scenario, because it is not going to be good for education, it's not going to be good for any sector in the country.
All right, let's talk about the energies that we've seen the CS really, engage in, and one of it is really to, like we mentioned, to curb cheating. But what do you think about the where we are as a country when it comes to quality education? Because it's one thing to ensure that candidates do not cheat, but before even the examinations are sat for, what is the kind of quality that they're getting with regard to education? We've seen, even proposals that there's going to be free secondary education once this whole political quagmire actually comes to an end. So what really do you think is the most priority, or is the thing that the education ministry should take as priority? The quality of education, or consequently, is it the examination cheating? Because we've seen quite a number of efforts being put into the latter.
You're right, actually, that we have put a lot of effort in preventing cheating, which is a good thing to start with, but which should not be the end goal. Because the goal that we have to strive to achieve is to ask ourselves, what is education for? And what is education in the first place? If education is to create this human being who is knowledgeable, who understands the need to coexist with others, who has a civic duty to the nation, and a spiritual being who understands that there is a purpose to this life beyond themselves, then the exams are just a very small component of this, and we need to be thinking broadly about the other aspects that we have to put into education for it to serve the purpose. If the purpose is not just to create ranking and saying these are the ones who passed and these are the ones who failed.
All right, let's talk about, as we start to wrap up our conversation, about the results that will be coming in. We understand that they will be out by the end of the month. Is this a good thing?
I think if the results come out early, it's good for parents who are going to plan, especially for the children who are hoping to join secondary school come next year. So that's a good thing. It also shortens the period of anxiety when children stay at home, not knowing how they have fared in the exams and not knowing, therefore, what they will be doing come next year. But I hope that we are also planning around the results coming with several measures that we need to put in place. One, to understand that we need a transition of all the children who have done their KCPE this year, and providing for the many options that they need for transition. I am so sure that secondary schools will not be able to take in the 1 million plus children who are sitting KCPE this year. They will not be able to take them in next year. So we need to be using all this time to make plans for them to transit to the next level. And that next level will be secondary school, will be technical schools, will be talent academies where they can be absorbed for those who are talented in doing other things other than the books. So I think we need to use this time to plan. The results will come out early, which is good, but that gives us an opportunity to plan, and let us not now fail in that latter part of the process.
Right. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Manyasa. He is a manager at Uwezo East Africa, and he's been talking to us about the examinations, the KCPE examinations that started yesterday.